the courtroom, this is the first time we met Federal Judge Wood. So, you know, almost 18 months after all this has happened. And so there was about 2.5 hours of argument on whether the Religious Freedom Restoration Act was a force to make this case be dismissed, and also questions of international law, and that there was a tendency on the part of the government to try to make it very, very particular, you know, that it was just only about, well, did they have to be here? Couldn't they have been there? And therefore, we understand that they're religious, but they could have stopped at the fence line. Beyond the fence line is not really appropriate, and that's illegal actions. And Stephanie McDonald, who is a lawyer here in town, she took the lead on going through the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, point by point by point, showing that the government really never did their job to show that the government has a responsibility to try to accommodate, essentially accommodate, people's religious beliefs. The magistrate had said that it absolutely believed that all of the Plowshares individuals were sincere, and absolutely believed that everybody was acting on religious beliefs, but then said, but those religious beliefs would stop at the fence line, and that they don't, it's not really important to their religious beliefs that they do it on the base, or that they cut a fence, or they cut a lock, and the like. So we had a lot of discussion of lock and fence, but we kept trying to bring it back to the individual actions, the faith-based actions of people to try to rid the world of nuclear weapons and to try to stop the millions of deaths that would occur if any of those missiles were ever used. Patrick O'Neill spoke, gave his personal testimony. Carmen gave his personal testimony. Mark Colville gave his personal testimony. Claire Grady gave her testimony. It felt like afterwards we were talking that maybe the judge really paid particular attention to Claire, that her testimony seemed to ring to, you know, that she seemed to be honing in on what Claire said a little bit more than everybody else. She was respectful of those of us in the room. She and the marshals and everybody in that courthouse was very impressed by so many people being there in witness, and they were all very clear. There were a lot of people outside as well. That was very, very important to her. She took this very seriously. The marshals were taking it seriously because of that. So we're in that process. So I think a lot of truth was told. The magistrate, the judge said she would take another memo from us in a week. So we're going to do that. We met afterwards to do that. Judge runs a very tight courtroom. Everybody who was in the courtroom was fantastic, and everybody on the outside was fantastic as well. And I also want to say, you know, that talking with Liz and Steve and Mark, who are still in jail, we talked to them at length yesterday and then again today, the greatest victory of all for them was the fact that 50 people were in front of that base yesterday. You know, that 50 people were in front of the base yesterday. As was pointed out, that hasn't happened for 25 years. It's about nuclear weapons. It's about ending the world as we know it. It was brought up a couple of times that, you know, just within the last couple of weeks, President Trump has brought us even closer than we've been in a long time. And so this is not as hypothetical as it might have been at another time. So the fact that you all made these trips and braved the heat and did the protesting and stayed in the courtroom and started up early and all that, I think it just means the world to the people who are in jail and the rest of the defendants. I'll let them talk about that. But the next step is that she will make a decision whether she's going to dismiss these charges or not. And then if she doesn't, what she said is she was going to give us a prompt court date. Now, you know, for courts, prompt doesn't mean the same as the rest of us. But, so the next step would be that she'll make a ruling, and if we don't win that ruling, then we will come back here for a trial. And that trial will be certainly in more like I hope a few months than it'd be a few weeks, but the weather should be a little bit nicer when we come back. And you know, we will make an effort this next time, given this circumstance, to try to make sure that they do an overflow courtroom so that those of you who couldn't get in can at least hear what happened. So it was very, very important that you were there, very heartening to the defendants, and I know there's plenty of other defendants in this room, so I mean, who are not defendants in this case. And you know, and we all know how important it is to have people stand in solidarity with us. So thank you so much for that, and maybe get some of the defendants to say something, and then we could answer questions if you want.